my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your detailed forecast update for December 23rd, 2024. We've got a lot to get through today. We're going to talk about the rainfall situation up in the far north of Queensland. More torrential rainfall is on the cards into the first week of 2025. We've got severe thunderstorms now on the cards in the northeast of New South Wales and into the southeast and central coast of Queensland. We'll have to talk about the Christmas weather forecast as well, and plenty of heat is on the cards still for Western Australia after near record-breaking temperatures yesterday. And we'll touch on the tropical situation as well. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing. But let's get stuck straight into things this morning. Again, just starting things off up in far northern Queensland, recapping on the situation that's happened up there. The river levels are now dropping quite rapidly, which is really good to see. The flooding up there, it wasn't as severe as initially expected, which again is fantastic to see. With tropical low 06U now moving offshore, none of the river levels got to the kind of moderate or major flooding alerts around the Cassowary coast and into the far northern extremities of Queensland. Then again, it does take an awful lot of rainfall to get the rivers up to that height up there, so I guess that was always going to be a very hard bar for this storm to reach. But the rainfall there certainly was very heavy, and then the river levels in the central Queensland area extending up into the southern extremities of the far north of Queensland around Townsville, they are also finally starting to drop as well. And the Bruce Highway now reopened, which again is great to see. A lot of places getting reconnected this morning, and they will continue to reopen more roads throughout the course of today and into tomorrow as well, with those road workers working overtime throughout the course of today, trying to get those roads fixed and back into shape just for, in time for the Christmas travel period. So again, take extra care if you are on the roads, and again, from any more showers, especially up into the far northern coast of Queensland, with a couple more showers expected throughout the course of today, that can send the river levels off, especially some of the creek levels off to the flooding alerts, just even if they're light showers when they're already so close to it. So make sure you are paying extra attention to the flood warnings, and keep on top of the warnings page as well with the Bureau of Meteorology, because even though nothing heavy in the way of rainfall is expected today, if you get a shower that drops 20 millimeters in 15 minutes, which is entirely possible at pretty much any time of the year across the far northern extremities of Queensland, that can cause a river to start flowing again quite rapidly, and we don't want that, especially not right now. So again, keep an eye on the flood warnings page. I don't expect anything else to kind of be an extra thing or an extra threat throughout the course of today, which again is really good news, but there is always a chance at this time of the year, especially from thunderstorms as well. The torrential rainfall, though, for far north Queensland, it's going to pipe up into the first week of 2025 by the looks of things. If we skip this forecast right out to the first day of 2025 on Wednesday next week, you can see there are going to be a couple of thunderstorms here and there, and you can see enhanced moisture already starting to build in the Coral Sea. It takes it till Friday the 3rd of January to really pipe up the rainfall here, and keep in mind this is a preliminary forecast. We're looking well over a week out into the future at this time, 10 days actually out into the future for this forecast. So we are really kind of not guessing, we're making an accurate prediction here, but there is going to be discrepancies. Things are going to change with the forecast, but you can see the Coral Sea looks like it's going to throw up a big onshore flow event in terms of the rainfall for the far north and the central Queensland coastline. For locations between Mackay up to Cooktown, including Cairns and Townsville, looks like they're going to be in the box seat once again to receive some heavy rainfall from showers that are going to be streaming ashore. This rainfall consolidates into a weak low pressure system that's going to sit itself up offshore from Townsville, which is going to crawl slowly up the coastline and then further inland as it gets up towards the Cassowary coast. This will happen sometime on the 4th of January, Saturday, and then continue in towards Sunday with this heavy rainfall, before it looks like the rainfall eases off a little bit on Monday the 6th of January. But we're probably going to be looking at 2 days here of some pretty significant rainfall accumulations across the far north of Queensland. Again, this is a preliminary forecast, and this is the first edition that we're looking at on this forecast in terms of this rainfall here. I haven't seen it on a previous forecast, and there are still some major discrepancies between other forecast models as well. The GFS calling for that onshore flow, but in terms of the rainfall, it isn't calling for anything really significant. Now, the GFS often does that. It's often a big lowballer in terms of rainfall until the day of the weather event, and then it actually kind of kicks itself into gear, and that's because it is a lower resolution forecast model and can't crank out the data that the EasternBF can, and that's why the convective models have a massive bias towards high rainfall accumulations, because they are really high resolution forecast models. The EasternBF is a perfect mix of both. It's a perfect mix of high resolution detail and a really good mix of long-term accuracy as well. And the EasternBF has been a very good and very reliable forecast model throughout the course of 2024, and has been a model that I've relied upon. So I see no reason to doubt this forecast right here. And again, that is a very valid forecast for this time of the year. And this is just classic rainfall across far northern Queensland. Heading into the far north of Queensland, this rainfall here sliding in from a Coral Sea tropical low by the looks of things. Just classic stuff, textbook stuff for the far northern coast of Queensland, especially around the Cassowary coast. Now, rainfall accumulations haven't really materialised forecast on this forecast here. They are still going to be quite heavy from this, depending on what actually happens, but I would also take this with a very heavy pinch of salt, considering that this actually isn't a feature in real life, and it has just came onto the forecast as well. But it is very good that we get a heads up on this early on. You can see peak rainfall accumulations on this forecast here expected to be around that 350 to 400 millimeter mark. Again, that is a very classic amount of rainfall for the far north of Queensland to get across 3 or 4 days of the locally intense rainfall that they will receive from a tropical low at this time of the year. The other forecast models, like I said, not really picking up on it at this time, but this is a very valid and very reasonable forecast that the ECMWF has thrown our way this morning. Now, I'm not calling for anything in the way of exact numbers and exact details of the forecast for some of these locations, because doing that at this time would be crazy. Things are going to change quite substantially over the next couple of days, and there's also the chance that this gets booted completely off the forecast, and the first week of 2025 is a dry one up in the far north of Queensland. I'm merely saying that this is a heads up that some substantial rainfall could be on the way up there, and just looking at the forecast and how this system does develop in the Coral Sea, and also the support that the GFS is having for this system as well, it does give me high confidence in saying that some kind of Coral Sea onshore flow is expected around the Cassowary Coast or into the far north of Queensland at some point into the first week of 2025. Exact numbers and details, of course, we're going to have to wait probably another week to actually iron them out, but this is, again, just the heads up that quite a bit of rainfall is on the cards. And this is just classic stuff that the ECMWF has thrown our way, which, I mean, it does give me great confidence in saying what is expected on the forecast here, but this is a stock standard textbook Coral Sea tropical low funneling the rainfall ashore here, or a rain depression, whatever you want to call it. This is just stock standard stuff, textbook stuff that the ECMWF has called for on their forecast. Beyond about Monday, it looks like the rainfall is going to trickle down there and into the long range forecast as well. It looks like January is going to be a bit of a dry one across the far north of Queensland, definitely compared to the rainfall that has fallen across December as well, so it is interesting that this rainfall is coming through in January, when the long-range forecast is suggesting that January is probably going to be on the dry side of normal. Again, we are still expecting some really good rainfall, especially for this time of the year around the far north of Queensland and just along the tropics in general around Australia, but it does look like after this we are going to move into a substantially dry period. And also in terms of tropical low forecasts in the Coral Sea, of course, that means that we're not expecting too much in the way of Coral Sea tropical lows either throughout the course of January. Just taking a look at the long-range forecast, we will need to keep a very close eye on things, of course, over the coming couple of days, and I'll have more information on this weather system as the New Year's draws closer. I'll be able to give a definite answer on what's expected sometime on the 29th or the 30th, so just about a week away, but that'll still be a week notice for this weather event here. So again, make sure you are subscribed. The latest information will of course be releasing daily on this channel. Let's head down into the southeast of Queensland as well. We've got severe thunderstorms to be talking about in the New Year's period for them. I know I said a couple of days ago that the long-range forecast didn't really favour severe thunderstorm activity. Well, now it is. Let's pull the forecast back to today. We are talking about the chance of a couple of thunderstorms firing up here and there adjacent to the coastline into the northeast of New South Wales. The conditions are actually going to be pretty good for these thunderstorms, especially along the coastline, where you're going to get the warm, dry air meeting across the ranges, and then that cool, dry air coming in from the south, and that warm, very moist air coming in from the north around that Lismore area. So there's going to be a really good spot for thunderstorms somewhere between Coffs Harbour and Lismore along the coastline, and I haven't really seen it on the convective forecast models. Normally they'll really talk up a bit of a setup like this, but a couple of good thunderstorms are possible. Severe thunderstorms are very low chance of forming tonight, but I again would not be surprised if a couple of them did develop. We will need to keep a very close eye on things, especially on the radar as well. And then up towards Toowoomba as well, a couple of thunderstorms possible here and there, nothing crazy on the forecast. It's going to be a dry one for Christmas Eve. Plenty of, by the looks of things, cloud-free skies across the southeast of Queensland and into the northeast of New South Wales as well. Cloud-free skies again by the looks of things on Wednesday for Christmas Day, and that rain doesn't return into the northeast of New South Wales until at least Friday the 27th of December. You can see a couple of thunderstorms expected here and there, nothing really crazy on the forecast, nothing in the way of severe ones by the looks of things, and then a couple of good thunderstorms expected into the more central locations of Queensland. You can see Roma, a couple of thunderstorms extending between Roma and Longreach, and they're going to have some pretty good conditions to fire up on Friday. And then Saturday the 28th of December is going to be the start of a couple of days of severe thunderstorm outbreaks across the southeast of Queensland. Some meaty storms are expected outside of Brisbane. The setup is going to be really good on Saturday. Plenty of instability in the atmosphere, plenty of moist air coming in from the north, cool air coming in from the south, and that really warm, dry air coming in from the west. So the setup around the southeast of Queensland is just going to be pristine for some of these thunderstorms here. In fact, I don't think I've seen a better thermodynamic setup probably all year. I don't think there's going to be enough instability to really create a monster severe thunderstorm outbreak on the 28th, but I certainly do expect some really gnarly severe thunderstorms, and the 28th is certainly a day that we're going to be talking about in the next week of forecasts. It's going to be a pretty interesting day, that's for sure, just having a look at the setup with the wind speeds and the temperatures and the instability. I think we've got a good chance of some pretty gnarly storms coming through on Saturday, and same deal for Sunday as well. In fact, there's going to be more instability on Sunday, and even though the conditions, the wind speeds and the dry air and all the convergence isn't as flash it is on Saturday, don't get me wrong, it's still really good, but it looks like the instability values are going to be slightly higher across the southeast of Queensland, and as such, a similar day of thunderstorms expected between Saturday and Sunday. They all kind of converge, the warm dry, the warm moist, and the cool dry winds, and also the instability all kind of converges in one spot. As such, some of these storms are going to battle with low wind shear, and that's going to really kind of prevent them from getting the structure that they do desperately need. So we will need to keep a very close eye on things here. These thunderstorms might struggle with the wind shear factor, and as such, they might not be able to be as severe as expected. We will keep a very close eye on things as well, especially with the forecast and the forecast for wind shear, but especially on Sunday, it doesn't look like there's going to be too much in the way of wind shear until you get much higher into the atmosphere, when we'll be talking about the 50 to 60 knot winds up into the higher atmosphere that are kind of expected. So Sunday looks a little bit better for wind shear, but still between Saturday and Sunday, some of these storms are going to struggle with steering flow, and it just doesn't look like they're going to be kind of enjoying the same conditions that you might get from a November outbreak in the southeast of Queensland. All in all, though, very healthy conditions for these thunderstorms. So, and same deal for Monday as well, even though not too much in the way of thunderstorms is expected across the southeast of Queensland, just kind of a couple of showers here and there into the central coast and up into the northern extremities of the Sunshine Coast as well, around Billawheeler and out towards Dingo and Rockhampton. A couple of good thunderstorms expected out there, but it looks like they're going to be kind of converging in more sort of thunderstorms tending to rainfall at times, more moderate rainfall expected out there, which will be very good to see, and rainfall accumulations will be driven up as a result. New Year's Eve, it looks like those thunderstorms do peter out a little bit. There will still be a couple of thunderstorms expected here and there, especially later on into the night into the southeastern corner of Queensland, but we're looking really far out into the forecast now, so we will keep a close eye on things over the coming couple of days, especially with the forecast, but things are going to change for the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day forecast, and as such, this is a little bit more of an unreliable forecast at this time. Good wind speeds though, I mean, again, great convergence in the southeast of Queensland. Instability also looking pretty healthy as well. I'll get that up again. You can see instability values are actually quite a lot higher on New Year's Day compared to what Saturday and Sunday is expected. And those instability values carrying over into 2025 as well, just not in as dramatic fashion. And it looks like Wednesday is going to be the last day of the significant severe thunderstorms, if Wednesday does present the chance of severe thunderstorms. So what looks to be a 5-day severe thunderstorm outbreak is now on the cards to the southeast of Queensland, and probably a 6-day severe thunderstorm outbreak across the northeastern corner of New South Wales. Certainly it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. It's been a while now, probably about a month until since we've had a really gnarly severe thunderstorm outbreak across the southeast of Queensland, so those thunderstorm lovers are going to be itching for it, and a couple of people really desperate for rainfall as well, especially in some locations into the more interior parts of the southeast of Queensland. They'll be rubbing their hands together at this rainfall forecast. Now, of course, with severe thunderstorms, we bring the risk of heavy rainfall, damaging winds and large hailstones, and slow-moving severe thunderstorms, especially the sort that we could be seeing on Saturday and Sunday with the very heavy rainfall. Rainfall accumulations will blow out into the triple figures, no doubt, around the scenic rim and around Brisbane. Still, though, widespread rainfall accumulations expected to be above 70 millimetres across locations of the Sunshine Coast, especially in the adjacent ranges outside of Gympie and Mount Perry. Good rainfall extending up towards Billawheeler as well. Agnes Water, Gladstone and Rockhampton expecting about 30 millimetres and residual rainfall from thunderstorms blowing through later on into the night. Brisbane expecting about 70 to 80 millimetres of rainfall. Gold Coast slightly drier, about 25 to 30 millimetres of rainfall. Again, this is a thunderstorm forecast. The rainfall predictions are, of course, going to come with a very heavy pinch of salt as usual, but it does look like some good rainfall is going to be on the cards, and especially once you get some thunderstorms moving over your location, the rainfall accumulations are going to start rising very significantly and very rapidly as well. Same deal with the northeast of New South Wales as well. Some good rainfall accumulations. They're expected between the 28th and the 1st of January. You can see rainfall accumulations between 30 and 50 millimetres, slightly higher as you get up towards the border as well, and slightly higher as you get further inland into some of the more adjacent coastal ranges. So some good falls expected all round across the northeast of New South Wales, and some good to great falls also expected into the southeastern corner of Queensland and adjacent to the Sunshine Coast, which is going to make a lot of people very happy and very excited on the forecast. Now on to our heatwave / Christmas weather forecast, and there's heatwaves starting off over in Western Australia, where temperatures are beginning to rapidly rise this morning once again for what's going to be another scorching hot day. Bindu, about 400 kilometres north of Perth, received a 48.5 degree maximum yesterday, breaking breaking all records, obviously, for this northern wheatbelt community, but very, very warm indeed. I mean, 48.5, that is real temperatures. That is a really high daytime maxima. 44 or 45 happens every now and then, every couple of years, and that was the temperature reported across a lot of stations, but 46, 47, and 48. And believe it or not, there were a couple of places that were picking up 47 and 48. There were probably about 10 weather stations in all around the Geraldton and Kalbarri Murchison sort of region that had a maximum above 47 degrees Celsius yesterday. That is some serious stuff, some seriously warm temperatures out there. Again, not record breaking for a lot of places, but very close to. And I mean, Geraldton got very close to its record temperature as well, 46.5 degrees there, 46.2 degrees in Port Hedland, the two hottest places around the world yesterday. So very, very warm indeed. With more warm weather expected throughout the course of today, it's going to start rising that temperature very, very quickly across the Perth metro area. You can see temperatures expected to be right up into the 40s by around 11 a.m. and those temperatures climbing to a maximum of 42 degrees expected for Perth and about 43 or 44 as you get into some of the more adjacent inland suburbs, especially into the Perth's east. Looks like the reception's dropping out over here at Rottnest Island, where I'm enjoying the cool and much calmer weather that we're experiencing over there. I mean, it was a top of 28 degrees yesterday, very pleasant indeed. Those temperatures will cool off later into the afternoon and evening as a bit of a sea breeze comes through. It's still going to remain very hot into the night, but those temperatures will cool quite dramatically as the day goes on, with the lowest temperature for Perth expected to be around 25 degrees at midnight, the lowest temperature in the past 24 hours, that is, and then it will keep dropping into tomorrow morning, where the overnight minimum is expected to be a much more pleasant 20 degrees Celsius or thereabouts, depending on exactly where you are. It'll be another very warm day, Christmas Eve into interior parts of Western Australia. It'll also be a bit of a muggy top of about 30 degrees for Perth as well. It'll be humid because of that sea breeze that's going to be blowing through, and then on to Christmas Day, it looks like those temperatures are going to plummet around the Perth area, daytime maximum of 22 degrees, making it one of the coldest Christmases in recent history for the Perth metro area. Plenty of warm days, however, expected across interior parts of Western Australia, especially up into the Pilbara region and the Gascoyne region as well. Temperatures into the high 30s, extending into the mid 40s into the Pilbara region as well. The maximum temperatures of about 45 to 46 degrees expected outside of Roebourne and Karratha. Warm temperatures extending in towards South Australia as well. Adelaide expecting a bit of a pleasant top of 34. That's kind of on the upper end of how hot you probably want it for Christmas Day. It's going to be a bit of a fire danger day as well, with some strong winds coming in from the north. So again, we will take a very close look at the Adelaide weather situation as well on Christmas Day, just considering the fire danger ratings that are possible. Darwin's going to be a mild top of around 32 degrees. That's pretty average for this time of the year. A couple of sea breeze thunderstorms expected for them as well. Interior parts of the Northern Territory into the mid 40s, especially for this time of the year. That's stock standard weather. Queensland up into the north and the north central region, a couple of showers expected here and there. Townsville and Cairns, both tops of 28 and a few showers hovering. Into the central coast, it's going to be a little bit warmer, between sort of that 26 to 30 degree mark, especially as you get further inland, it will start to get a little bit warmer. And then into the interior parts of Queensland, temperatures expected to be into the early 40s across lots of locations. Longreach, top of 42, Mount Isa also top of 42. Into the southeast of Queensland, a top of around 28 expected for Brisbane, and be a little bit warmer into the western suburbs and into the west just in general, up to about 30 degrees there, and a couple of showers possible as well later on into the afternoon. Lismore, a top of 26, Coffs Harbour, a top of 25, Sydney, a top of 24, with a bit of an onshore breeze keeping things cooler. Into the western suburbs, it'll get up to about 30 degrees for Penrith. Canberra, a top of 30 degrees as well. It's not often you see Canberra beating out the temperatures for Sydney and Melbourne, both of them. Melbourne, top of 28, but it is going to warm up dramatically on Boxing Day for Melbourne, and then Hobart, a top of 19. And then, yeah, for Boxing Day, with those winds that are going to be sweeping in, all of that hot air dragged down by a cold front that's going to be sweeping down from the south across Victoria, you can see plenty of days expected to be well in excess of 40 degrees, especially across the western half of the state. Mildura, top of 42, Broken Hill, a top of 40 into New South Wales, Bendigo and Ballarat, tops of 37 and 38 degrees respectively, and Melbourne, a top of 38, could get to 40 into some of the northern suburbs. Of course, this is going to elevate fire danger ratings just after Christmas, which is going to be quite unfortunate because they're really battling with some significant fires at this time. And it's not until 8 o'clock at night when the temperature finally drops below 38 degrees. You can see top of 37 degrees expected at 8 o'clock over there, or 8 o'clock local time, before that cool change races in. And then at 9 o'clock, the temperature is going to have dropped about 15 degrees down to 21 degrees there. So those temperatures will drop rapidly as the night draws on, but you can see that it's going to be a very warm start to the night, that's for sure. And then on Boxing Day for the Sydney to Hobart, as those yachts probably around the southern areas of New South Wales, those winds are going to pick up dramatically, and the brief forecast for that, I mean, look at how windy it's going to be. Winds of around 30 knots with gusts of around 50 knots or so, or 40 to 50 knots, so those winds are going to be very high indeed. It is going to be a very quick race, probably near record breaking, and for those yacht race lovers, it's certainly going to be a very interesting one indeed. It'll actually feel like a sport, that's for sure. I mean, it always feels like a sport sport, but it will feel like watching a high action sport just with what these winds are expected to do. And let's just wrap this video up with a bit of a tropical low tropical cyclone forecast. There is something kind of rumbling over in the Cocos Islands right now. You can see it on the satellite picture. There's plenty of convection that looks like it's about to wrap itself up into a broad low pressure system around the Cocos Keeling Islands. That's been going for the last couple of days, and the Eastern Weather suddenly really came on board with a weak tropical cyclone that could be possible around the Cocos Keeling Islands on the 26th or the 27th. The Axis G3 and the GFS forecast models have also been supporting it the last couple of days. So a weak tropical cyclone could happen on Thursday or Friday here. It has recently just boomed onto the forecast, so that's an interesting factor indeed. We really did miss this system, but it's not expected to bring impacts to Western Australia, and it's also not expected to become a strong tropical cyclone either, Category 1 status at most. And the Coral Sea, radio silence throughout the course of the first week of January as well. I mean, we were expecting the possibility of something later on, but it looks like that's just going to become a rain depression and funnel in a ton of moisture into the northern coast of Queensland. So that's an interesting factor on the forecast, but again, doesn't look like anything interesting in the way of tropical cyclone activity is going to be moving through in the Coral Sea for at least a good couple of weeks, probably about 2 or 3 weeks. There's nothing on the long range forecasts either. Anyways, that is all that I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. It has been a pain to record just with reception dropping in and out, so if it is a catastrophically late forecast, then please forgive me in the comment section down below. But any feedback is always welcome and wanted on this channel as well. Leave a like on the video while you're at it, and a special shout out to channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Again, I could not run this show without them. Their support is much appreciated, but that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.